have the transcenders given you any indication of once we're through that, how many humans may remain on the Earth?
No, they don't do that.
Now, just to switch over to another area, I know in the book you talk about how the different societies are, how things are in the Pleiades, how things are in some of the other societies, just so we can get an idea of how other civilizations run their planets and their societies. I wonder if you could share some of that information for us.
Well, Alfred, I really don't know that much about it. I know they are more democratic in their government, except the Alpha Centaurians, which is nothing but a big military base from top to bottom. And but otherwise, like the Palladians and others, everybody has sort of, their communication system, of course, is different, far more sophisticated than what we have. But let's say they have something like a computer. And they have these managers, not politicians. Some of them don't have politicians, don't really have a government in a sense, unless you want to call these managers a government. And supposing some issue comes up, like, shall we start trading with, say, for example, with the Compsolize? And so everybody presses yes or no on their computer, and so then the managers get the results, and they go according to the results they get from the people that they represent. So that's the way they function, a number of them. But that is I'm giving you an instance here because I was given that instance by the transcenders, but I don't doubt is that because of free will and choice, there must be thousands and thousands of different types of systems out there.
Now, do you plan would you be a consultant to organizations or to institutions that would seek your help and your expertise during these years?
No, I'm afraid I'm too old for that, Alfred.
I see.
I just couldn't handle that. No, the information's in my book. And one of the things, though, like, for example, in regards to the things that we must do in regards to our financial collapse, Transcenders and I have discussed this at length, and they said there's only one solution. You've got to recognize you're broke, and you've got to pick up the pieces, but how, and where do you go from there? Well, one of the things they suggested, go to the international trade dollar. All trade, international trade is paid for by the so-called universal trade dollar. Now, we can still have the Canadian dollar and the American dollar and the British pound and all the rest of it, but the trade dollar would be for all international trade commerce. Now, that's one thing they've got to accept, and get away from the American dollar. And that may not be a very easy thing for the American to accept, but there it is. The other thing is that practically all of these nations are broke, except for China. So what they should do now is reduce, devalue all currencies down to 10% of current values. Down to 10%, all nations. That means, of course, the implication of that is that the foreign debts are now reduced down to 10%. So, of course, some nations will say, oh, well, who's going to gain from this? Mainly the Americans. Well, maybe so. But the United States is the economic engine of the world, and unless they get going again, the rest of the world won't. And so the transcenders have suggested is that this is one thing that they can do, because if they don't, if because in their national pride they decide, oh, no, there's no way that they could reduce their dollar down to 10% of present value and accept the international trade dollar, then fine, you will live in absolute economic and financial chaos for at least another 15 years. So take your pick. So I'm trying to get that message across. And I'll tell you, I give up on the public. I'm sorry, Alfred, but my years of experience with the Air Force, and I don't rely upon the public. And so where will this activity generate from? Well, I would think in the universities, amongst the university students, if they can start talking about this and then organizing things worldwide and putting pressure on the governments, that they will accept this as the only solution now, to do it now.
Right. Good. Well, so you are now engaged in writing a second book.
Well, I'm pretty well finished with the second. But the second book really deals with the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay. Well, the strange alien.
That's the third book. Yeah.
Yeah. The strange alien races book.
Yeah.
Good. Are there any final words that you would like to leave our listeners with in this remarkable interview?
There's so many, I wouldn't really know where to start, Alfred.
Uh-huh.
But I think is that what we got to do, we got to put pressure on. I want to tell you this one thing that I think is very important. Is that I've talked to politicians. I've written to politicians. And Dave, my good friend, I told you about the NORAD officer, intelligence officer.
Uh-huh.
So did he. And we found out one thing, is that they know absolutely nothing of the UFO alien phenomena. Alfred, you've forgotten more than any of the politicians in Canada or the United States know about this subject. Mm-hmm. And the thing I found out, they don't want to know. Like I was talking to one politician here a few years ago. And, basically it was like, don't talk to me about that, Stan. He says, because I'm not going to go and stick my neck out there. He says, I'm going to lose votes. I don't want to appear as a fool, because he thought he'd appear as a fool if he started questioning about the existence and reality of alien existence. So you see, this is the attitude. Don't mention that to me. I don't want to talk about it. So they know absolutely nothing about it. Now, in regards to the conspiracy of silence and the UFO cabal, people often wonder, well, how come? Is that all that's going on in the UFO cabal in Area 51? The president certainly should know about it. At least the chief of defense staff should know about it, but they don't. Why not? Because the information now is so restricted. It only goes up so far up the line, and where it stops, nobody knows. So that information is not provided to the public, so the public does not know. The politicians don't know. Who knows? Who has more information than anybody else? People like yourself and hundreds of ufologists all over the world. And so you've got to keep on doing what you're doing. Maybe more of it. Well, there's getting to be more of it as well. And I think that's important. And bring in the universities as much as you possibly can. And to have them deal with two major issues we've got to deal with now. We can't deal with, there's not much we can do about Earth changes. So I think we can set that aside, Alfred. But two things we should consider now very seriously is the Middle East and a general amnesty for Al-Qaeda. That's one thing we should be considering, and getting the hell out of the Middle East. Oh, one more point about that Middle East. If I have time, I'd just like to make a very brief comment. One of the things is say, well, there's a total imbalance in a military and political imbalance in the Middle East. It's all because Iran might build a uranium bomb, a nuclear bomb. I beg your pardon. They don't have one, and according to the Transcender, they never will. Who has all of that vast nuclear arsenal? It's Israel. Well, and Israel today has nuclear submarines in the Persian Gulf, off the coast of Iran, armed with missiles that was helped and paid for by the Americans and by the French government, and the submarines are the German Dolphin submarines given to them by the Germans. And there they are, anchored off the coast of Iran with nuclear missiles pointed at Iran. Who is threatening whom? And do you hear anything about it? No, because we're given lies and lies and lies. And for years and years, while they were building up, Israel was building up this vast nuclear arsenal, they lied to the world and said no. And the United States, oh no, they had nothing to do with it. France denied having anything to do with it. So did Germany. And yet who is the threat in the Middle East? Now, there is an agreement signed, a military agreement signed between the United States and Israel. It's been there for many years. Is that in case Israel is ever attacked, that the United States would come to its defense. Fine. The United States has nuclear armed submarines in the Mediterranean, in the Arabian Sea, and the Persian Gulf. They surround the Middle East with their nuclear missiles and this sort of thing. So why does Israel require all these nuclear arms? Why can't Russia and the United States say to Israel, you get rid of all those nuclear missiles, that'll bring a balance, political and military balance to the Middle East, and we will guarantee your security. Why not? So these are things that I wish somebody would talk about, discuss. And the other thing is that in regards to the trade dollar and the devaluation of 10 down to 10%, those are issues that's got to be discussed. I can't do this. I'll go and
Right. Those are very important issues, and the information that you're bringing us, Stan, through your book, Challenges of Change, is paramount. The immediate information with a confirmed prediction on October 13, 2010, that of the decision of the Council of the Regional Council, the Council of Eight, of its UFO sighting over New York, setting out its intent to intervene to clean up the environment of this planet, thus giving us a future, and also alerting us to the dangers that we'll have in this transitory period, and to a hopeful outcome once we get through the transition, where representatives of the Council will be addressing the United Nations, and there'll be a complete transformation of government. I mean, that's extraordinary, and I'm sure that those concerns that you have will be dealt with, in the course of all of these incredible changes that you are describing.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. Now, one thing I'd like to mention before we stop here is that I appeared on the Coast to Coast AM.
Okay.
The following day, we had over 600 orders for the book, and the next day, I forget how many, we were swamped. And we only had 1,000 books printed that I copied. So next week we're going for the next print, the fourth edition. And but we're way behind. So when people call in for order a book from, they can order a book like to our website through. Oh dear me. Oh, our website. Huh.
Is that I'm looking at a website here. Challenges of Change. It's on a Google a site?
Yeah, but it's, oh, God heavens, I forgot this, forward.google.com /
Yeah, it's sites.google.com
sites,
/flight, and then Challenges of Change.
Challenge Change.
Yeah.
But I want to warn any of your viewers who are interested in ordering a book, just please have patience. You can order now.
Yeah.
But we're just swamped, and we're hiring more people, and hoping to get those books out within the next 2-3 weeks.
Excellent.
So, and thank you, Alfred, for
sure.
the wonderful work you're doing.
Yeah, Stan. And we're going to be monitoring this, Stan, and I hope that you will consent to join us in future programs as developments occur, and we'll be monitoring you and your work and your website closely in the future.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
And thank you very, very much. And this will be posted as a radio program, but also it'll be an article in the Examiner also. Good enough.
Good.
Well, we've been with Stanley A. Fulham, former NORAD officer, author of I can truly say this is an extraordinary book, Challenges of Change. This is Exopolitics Radio. I'm your host, Alfred Weber. Please stay tuned. Thank you.